for a little bit of context, let's talk about how much time it takes on average for the rupee to half versus the dollar.
Yeah.
So the rupee was around 75 rupees to a dollar in 2008, and it came to 150 rupees in 2019. So roughly around 10 years it took for the rupee to half. Then from around March 2021 to today, which is when it hit 300, so gone from 150 to 300, it did that in 2 years. So we went from 75 to 150 over a period of 10 years. We've gone from 150 to 300. It's actually closer to 330 right now. My father just went to convert some money Karachi ke andar, and it was reporting at 330 a couple of days ago. So 330 is where we're at. Khurram Hussain, who is the editor at Dawn, or used to be the former editor,
Former editor, yeah.
on
Mm.
business and economy, he is predicting that it may even go to 500 over the next 2 years. So he says that that's no longer an outlandish possibility. The way that our money supply is growing, the way that our balance of payments are coming out, that's how profound the Pakistani challenge is. And the dollar rupee sort of rate is both a cause and an outcome of our economic mess. The reasons for this, and we can get into this, are largely structural and long term, but all the solutions to the slide of the rupee are political. Both the short term solutions and the long term solutions require hard decisions to be made that can only be made by a political government that comes with the mandate of the people and can take hard reform actions that are needed. An interim government, a government without the mandate of the people, cannot take the actions that are needed to arrest sort of some of these structural issues.
Right, right. That is the sort of your opening, not so good news. But about the structural reasons, we'll come to that. But Bilal, my understanding always has been, since the time I was a student of economics, is that with devaluation, while it is really a kind of textbook solution to increase your exports and and decrease your imports. But in Pakistan, imports are inelastic. You need diesel, you need petrol, you need now LNG, you need other food commodities, tea, palm oil, etc., etc. And while so and exports really are not growing. I mean, how many sectors are we exporting? So this whole focus on devaluation, how effective it is. What do you think, Bilal?
Yeah. So there is strategic devaluation, which you do because you want to increase your exports and it is a
Mm,
strategic bet. This is not that.
mm,
This devaluation is an indicator of the poor health of our economy and the lack of confidence that investors and economic players have in the current political setup and economic policies of the country. So this is not a strategic, let's increase our exports through devaluation sort of game, because if that was the case, our rupee went down by half, as we just talked, in the last 2 years, but our exports have not doubled. And so that theory is not proving out for us, and it is not sort of being done in that strategic a manner. The reason why we're experiencing this latest sort of bout of devaluation is because we do have an IMF deal, and people were anticipating that this IMF deal would calm down sort of the fears of a quote unquote default. But this IMF deal is like putting a band aid on a cancer patient or having a cancer patient take a Tylenol or a Panadol. This is barely symptomatic and it is not sufficient for what we need. So, essentially, what the market is beginning to predict is that even if we succeed in the IMF deal and keep it on for the next 6 to 7 months, and this is a big if, by the way, if whether the deal will be able to take it to the closure of this deal as well. Even if that happens, at the end of that, we will need to have some kind of debt restructuring conversation with both foreign lenders as well as domestic lenders, and that is something that can only happen when you've got your policymakers and political players of the country on the same page that can absorb that much pain and sell that much pain to your country. And we don't see that happening from a political landscape standpoint, which is why there is an air of uncertainty. There is no pathway out of this. There's no, the job of economists and the job of political economists is to be able to predict different pathways to see how a landing can take place. Like, for example, in the case of America, where the economy is heated up from an inflation standpoint, they're thinking about a soft landing. How does Pakistan get a soft landing? Pakistan is in the middle of a dramatic crash, a dramatic meltdown, and there is no pathway for that meltdown to slow. It is an accelerating meltdown, and that part is really scary. The only pathway, and that's also a very narrow pathway, the only pathway in which the rules of the game can shift for Pakistan is if the political players in the country, and the players who are not political but who are political, can come together and sit down and establish the rules of the game when it comes to the economy and when it comes to power sharing. Because beyond that, this is a plane that is diving, that is crashing, and will continue to crash at an accelerated pace.